Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Transfer Market Metrics for Anfield Index. Number 21 to be exact, which, if we win the league back-to-back, is what we'll go to. But step at a time, transfer at a time, first of all. We're looking at different areas of the pitch, mainly in the defensive fold, though, tonight. So we'll look at a couple of fullbacks. We will look at a number 6 defensive midfielder and recent rumours on those. Here to join me as ever and run the rule on these numbers is Bart. And I've not actually asked you this. Normally we've talked off camera, but I'll ask you it right now, Bart. The 3 players that we've looked at, is there at least one that you think, yeah, I could see that?
It's I'm gonna have to search this by this isn't my money. One of them I could see that profile wise and all the other physical attributes, yeah, you could potentially see why we do it. There's another one that I think there's a big injury flag on, and there's another one that I'm just interested by. So there you go, let's be honest. But yeah, it's not my money. There you go.
Yeah, indeed. It's not your money, but it's important to talk about fees in the grand context of things. So, you know how we do this, people. We'll run the stats, we'll run the metrics one by one. We'll look at appearances, minutes, and all the other key elements in areas of the pitch. And the starting point is, and just to give you an idea, I think Bart's called him Rațiu either, but his official name is Andrei Rațiu when you go on to Spanish pronunciation site. So this is an interesting one in terms of, and I'll set the scene a bit for people here, Bart. Romanian international, 26 years old, Rayo Vallecano, not a fashionable club. People will argue a right back as well. So I'm intrigued by this player. There's quite a few heavy links, especially coming out of Spain. There was a release clause involved, so we will come to that at the same time. But we'll do what we normally do, Bart, with metrics, minutes, and see how you break him down first of all.
So, yeah, as you said, 26. The reason I've started here, people go, oh, he normally, but because he's 26, this is probably right on the cusp, if you like, of a date of signing. Not to say that's not me saying it's a bad guy before I even looked at it. I'm just saying 26 is normally towards the high end of that. Yeah. Like we talk about Zilamendi. Now I would say it's probably gone the other way in terms of our signing, but some of that is his age. Yeah, normally you try and get a midfielder when he's lower down. Same with the fullback. So anyway, I'm just putting it there as it is. Height-wise and the rest is absolutely fine. So there's nothing wrong with him physically that way. If we look at his playing time, which is down at the bottom here, but this is people, this is boring radio. So we are looking over the past few seasons. So he clearly broke in the team where he got his big, Eredivisie to La Segunda division. May not be a big change, but anyway. He got in, he went from 520 minutes to just sort of to 2,500 minutes. That's a big jump for him. Yeah. He was 23, so you could say it's a bit more of a hardened. He's got some bits and bobs between him. He was with Villarreal in La Liga, and then he clearly went on loan to Eredivisie, and he's come back into Segunda division. They spent 2 seasons lower down, clocking up some pretty impressive minutes, to be fair. Yeah. Just sort of 3-5 in his second season there. Then he's gone to Rayo Vallecano in 23-24 and clocked up what is to be said probably his second lowest total on record here, which is 630. Yeah. This season, he started 28 games, clocked up just sort of 2,500 minutes. He's got just short of 27.90, just over 27.90. So that is basically started and finished. You know, all the games he started, he's finished effectively, give or take. So, what does he do? Team success, what he's on the pitch this season is plus 32, which is obviously probably his best period that he's had his whole career, which is something to think about in terms of XG. He's plus 58 when he's on the pitch, right? So the balance between conceding and attacking goes the right way, all right? In terms of what does he do on the ball, again, Secunda Division hasn't got a lot of stats, so it's difficult to get a big trend going on. But touches obviously improved. We talk about that per 90 to normalise it. He has got more touches this season given the minutes played. Even in relation to that normalising it. He's spending the same amount roughly in the thirds, should we say, a little bit more in the attacking third than he has previous season. Okay, fair enough. Carries, so that's increased this season by about 10, whereas take-ons has decreased a little bit. So some bits there. In terms of always one that we look out for with defenders is his, actually, no, I've lost it now, but I was trying to look for his aerial duels. There you go. So 36.
Yeah.
A little bit low, 46 the previous season. So, yeah, it's not a strength of his, should we say. Definitely not a strength of his. In terms of golden creating actions, so he is 90. Better this season than last, because last season he had nothing. So that's something to think about. When we look at passing in general, he is completing 81% of his passes now per 90 versus 78 last season. So that's improved. He's attempting 52 passes per 90 versus 44 last season. So again, a little bit better in terms of that. And in terms of the assists, he's at 0.11. Again, he's improved from last season because he wasn't doing anything last season, right? So and if you start combining those up, and his top level, which we always look at, per 90, XG and XGA, that's gone up to 0.24 versus 0.13 last season. So improvements in the right direction, more minutes, higher quality. He's doing bits better, even improving, okay, for fullback.
Yeah.
Now, let's get into our normal percentiles. This is where I get a little bit, I have a few issues with the player. This is not the way around that we would want a fullback to look. Right? Aerials is the 21st percentile for fullbacks. That's not me comparing him with a centre half. That's comparing him like for like, apples with apples. 21st percentile is not great. That's not where you want your fullback to be. Clearances, again, this could be down to their style, but it's 26th percentile. Blocks, 59th percentile. So clearly, the cross blocking might be a tactic of theirs. A bit like ours is, to be fair, but could be out there. Interceptions, not looking to dip in front. And tackles is 57st percentile, which, considering the amount of duels that our fullbacks face a game, you might want to be considering the tackles to be a higher element to win that duels or make the tackle if you do it. So there's some bits there that are a slight worry. In terms of going the other way, though, so let's just put a pin in that, right, and look at what's he like in between the boxes. So he receives a fair amount of progressive passes considering he's a fullback, which says to me he likes to get up and support. Does he take on 99th percentile? Very good. So he's more of a take the player on in the wide position, a bit like Robbo used to be fair. Progressive carries, 94th percentile. So again, he's a carrier rather than a passer. 71st percentile for progressive passes. So he's still got a bit of a range on him, but it's not, I mean, nothing's in the Trent League, but it's still not a bad place to be for a fullback. Pass completion, 81st percentile, which you might think that's okay, but for a fullback, it's only 68th percentile. So that's a little bit low down, considering a lot of ball they have isn't under pressure. So you'd expect that to be a bit higher. Passes attempted, 59th percentile. So again, he's not looking to be that instigator of attack or anything, which, okay, something to think about. What happens when he gets in the box, though? Non-penalty goals, 69th percentile for fullback. Okay, it's not great. It's 7% XG per 90. Shots 75th percentile, so that's low. If we combine that all up to shot creating actions, 2.79 percentile, so it's not bad. Expected goals 91st percentile, so he potentially gets in good areas, but doesn't necessarily then convert that. So yeah, there is some attacking side of things that you could think, okay, but defensively, I think as I said in the last show we did this, you kind of want your defender to do your defensive stuff, right? Would be one of the things that I would look to do. And if we get to our old classic overlaying, the direct competitor who we're comparing it to, so Bradley is the guy who, for all intensity purposes, will be our right side coming into the summer. So Bradley, I think it's fair to say, outperforms in on several of the metrics. The only ones which Andrei outperforms Bradley are the attacking side of things. Yeah. So, and that pass completion and pass attempted is higher for Bradley. So, yeah, I suppose it's kind of what you want this fullback to do. If you want a slightly better version than the guy Corona, is it? I can't remember his name. The right back who looks at it's more of a winger than a fullback. That's something to think about. But in terms of the defensive side, he's not any better than currently what we have with Conor Bradley. So yeah, his dashboard. He's down this right-hand side. There is not a lot of connections with him. Even if you take it up to second half, it's not that advanced considering some of his metrics suggest that he does get involved. So, yeah, that's something to think about. Is he involved? Potentially, yeah. He's on the ball every other minute, but you'd expect a higher output. So there's things to think about. In terms of where is he involved, he's not. Again, he's involved in some of the good areas, but it's not amazing. Okay. Player analysis in this game, he created 11% of the team's EPV. Okay, decent. Pass success of 79. No, it drops down a bit. In terms of duel rate, I think it's 57%, which is a little bit, as I said, a little bit low for me. In terms of his wagon wheel for this game, he's bang on the metrics for a fullback. So, yeah, there's some things to consider. Threat, so a quick check. Most of their threat did come down the right, which is his channel, but that could be easily geared over the foot with the player in front of him. Okay, so some things to think about. Okay, defensively, what did he do off the ball? So it's fairly balanced right and left. So that's not to say there's a weakness there. He's showing that he is doing the defensive actions for his part on that part of the game. XG not involved, and I don't think he did take a shot from distance, a 2% chance. So, yeah, some things attacking wise. I think I've said that a lot with you that a lot of the fullbacks we're profiling from the docket are very good going forward. I would suggest, or good going forward. It's more the defensive side, which the data necessarily isn't showing in public available, but there might be some private data that the club has that they're absolutely like and they can take on board. So that's probably where I'm at with this guy.
Okay, so a bit to like attacking wise, a fair few defensive questions, as you said. I think blocks was his highest in the 59th percentile there. A couple of things I just want to put, because I'm not giving you all the detail, to be fair. His successful take-ons is in the 99th percentile, and his progressive carries are in the 94th percentile. So he does go past people. There's no doubts about that. The two elements I've not given to you, Barts, which I want to put to you, because Rayo Vallecano are doing very well. They're sort of high mid-table, which is a big achievement for them in La Liga when you look at the quality and the size of the club. Two things I want to see if they change or move the needle a little bit for you. I think you'll like these, but we'll see how much they move it. We'll go to fee first of all, because it's not the ultimate kicker. If I told you the fee, the release clause for this player is £20 million. That's the first thing I'm going to put into your consideration. The second consideration, I know you love physical stats and you can sometimes get them. We've managed to get them for this player. An average, or the top speed this season clocked, and get ready for this, 35.6 kmh. So I would suggest to you, it's a low, obviously there's a few question marks, but with a low release clause of 20 million, and the fact is effing rapid, does that change anything for you at all?
Yeah, I suppose there's two things. So yeah, he's cheap as chips in today's money, isn't he? And I can't believe I've just said that when the fee's £20 million. But yeah, that's the reality of modern football, isn't it? And his fees, I mean, his wages up here are like
tiny.
I'll be right, £10,000 a week. That's incredibly small. Like, yeah, so yeah, you could see that as a squad filler.
Yeah.
End of the summer, we've used all our money on forwards, so we've got a new left back. We've got a backup centre half, whether it's one of the ones we did yesterday or some other ones. And now we just need to fill the squad because we're going to give Bradley a chance. Maybe that's the way we're thinking. Yeah, I can see that. You know, if you've given all the kids a go from the academy in pre-season and you've not been impressed, then fine. This guy coming in on a short-term endo type deal might be all right. I wouldn't put him up against anything. He might sit, like when he comes to a bigger club and he gets different training, you could see a bit of growth. But from the outset here, I'm not suggesting he's going to be a starter in some of our top games because defensively, you know, he's not doesn't look to be good enough, and that might be really hard criticism. But no, I think if you're into the summer, you need a backup, then yeah, maybe for that figure. So you're not really going to lose it, but you're going to get a guy who's going to be incredibly grateful for having the opportunity, who's going to put his effort in, can do 2,500 minutes. With not any worries about it. So yeah, maybe it's low risk. I would be concerned if that was our strategy going forward, though, that we were just going to go a last minute shopping with a yellow ticket in Tesco's for a right back. But hey, it wouldn't be a bad bargain basement to get.
Yeah, and to be fair, people, it doesn't. I don't think he troubles the likes of Reed, the lad we looked at Feyenoord, and obviously we looked at Martin Fernandez at Porto is probably the top name that we've profiled. But if there is a bargain basement, Rațiu, if it needs to be done, possible. We'll move on from that one then. And we'll move on to a name that I've no doubt people have heard. Boubacar Kamara. Villa, 2 years left to go. The stories now, Villa are looking to get him renewed because obviously it's that 2 year where people tend to renew or remove Barts. People will look at the injury. People will also look at the fact this is a player Liverpool have looked at for a long time and is well known since his Marseille days. Also, it's a position where people are desperate for reinforcements, aren't they, the fan base? So I am intrigued to see what the metrics say on Kamara here.
So, having just said, I think Zubimendi would go against him because he's towards the end of that profile. This guy is 20, he's 25, but he's in the middle of the year. Yeah, he's got a long way to get through 26.
Yeah.
But he's still 25, right? He's not a young strip chicken, just to put it out there. 178, that's not tall. If I'm being honest. And 68 kg is fairly light for a centre mid. So there's some physical stuff there you have to look into. They're not always reliable. There's some ways in which the data are not particularly allowed that much anymore. But yeah, I'm just saying, he could do it. He's not going to grow anymore, but that's how he is. If you look at playing time, so as you said, we have looked at this guy. I mean, I've been aware from listening to my pods back in the day that this is a guy we've looked at a profile time again. So there is something in there. And if you look at, I mean, bearing in mind, we've got stats here since he was 16. There's no real stats at 16, but from 17 onwards, we've got his career, right? So from the age of 18, effectively, he is here bar that injury with Villa, yeah, he's hit over 2,000 minutes.
Yeah.
So he's got a pedigree of playing week in, week out, making 31 starts, 26 90s, 24, 23, 35, 32 of just starting games, finishing games, starting games, finishing games.
Yeah.
So that's a good pedigree. Yes, he unfortunately, I can't remember, he picked up an injury second season of Villa, right? He picked up a bit of an injury, and his minutes, it's fair to say, haven't picked up, should we say, from that. Haven't got back up to those levels, but he's a lie back. So there you go. In terms of the impact on the team, in terms of XG, largely in the green here. Yeah, all throughout his career, bar one season, which might have been his first season with Villa. Other than that, he's generally had a positive impact on teams' XG, which is a good thing considering, as we'll see, it doesn't actually add a lot going forward. It's more the defensive that he stops the opposition from doing stuff rather than going forward. So just while we're down here, miscellaneous, aerials, 46, 43. These are not in the areas we'd want our DM, but anyway, just while we're there, I thought I'd point it out. Pass time, now let's go for passing per 90. So generally his completion rate, that is fairly consistent, I would say. 90 is a bit of a drop there, 89, that's the same season, but it's in the mid to high 80s, right?
Yeah.
Slap bang where we want the midfielders to be. In terms of volume, he's attempting, so he's dropped down to about 50, 40, 70. So he's in around a good amount of volume of passes to maintain. Short game is better. Short and medium game is more accurate than his long game. His long game has actually got worse over the period of time. So, yeah, there's some things there. But generally speaking, yeah, short, sharp, medium stuff, which is two boxes on the visual seer still, or in the same box, is fine. And shooting, fair to say, as we'll come on to, attacking is not his strong point.
No.
And you'll see that even more so by looking at his combined not per XG and XA. It's a 0.06, that is 6% people. His top is 13% when he was at Marseille as a kid. So a 21-year-old. So yeah, you're not buying a player who's going to add anything goals to you. All right, just get that out of your mind straight away. So, but what does it look like in our percentile? So this is for a DM, and I think it is fair to label this guy as a DM, right? He ain't a 6 and an 8, an 8 and a bit, or a 9. We can do all this. This guy is your classic 6 DM, right? That's what he does. That's what he says on the tin. 76th percentile for aerials. So although we normally ask for higher, that's still not bad in comparison to the ranks of midfielders, right? 91st percentile for clearances, 54th percentile for blocks, interceptions and tackles. That is what we want to be seeing. We want our 6 to be nipping in front and then making a tackle when need to, not blocking or being reactive to something that's happened, all right? So these are some good defensive metrics to have for a midfielder. Yeah. Unfortunately, we're not expecting him to receive progressive passes.
No.
Fine. That means he's not going anywhere apart from that box in front of the centre half. Cool. Attacking ball touches. Again, not bothered. If he just sits in front of our two centre halves all day, I'm happy. He's not taking players on. He's not carrying the ball. He's not making progressive passes, which is probably something we normally ask our 6 to do. So that's a little bit low, 55th percentile. But in terms of pass completion, 85th. That's good. Yeah. It's just his volume's not low. So he's a simple, sit there, win it, give it to somebody else short. All right? Now that's fine. That can get found out because you only let that player have that short, have a longer option. Right? So one of the things they did with Grab is they stopped Grab's ability to turn and carry the ball. Yeah. And then what Grab had to do was pass the ball and that isn't Grab's strong point. He can pass the ball, but he can't help instigate our play, getting forward for a pass. So that's something we've had to deal with for the past 10 games, because for the first 20, he was brilliant at it, and then it worked out. So with him, because his game is short passing, you would make him pass it along. All right, and that's just something to be aware of. If your short passes to Mac does that for you, cool, not a problem. All right. And as I said, attacking wise, I mean, I don't really need to explain any of those to you, but none of them are particularly pretty. All right. So doing a usual comparison to who's currently in situ, Grav largely outmuscled him on anything to do attacking wise, and areas are rather key. Grav is better. Percentage of tackles versus dribblers at him is better, but clearances, Kamara is better. Everything else, he's not hugely above Grav. Okay, so it's not a marked change to what we've currently got. And Grav gives you a lot more attacking wise, even given the fact that they might have back a little bit going forward. In terms of Mac, how does he compare with McAllister? Again, even McAllister's better than him in a lot of the metrics. So he wouldn't come in from looking at this, and I'll show you the dashboard in a minute. He's not going to come in as, I would say, threatening to take a position off Grav, Dom, or Mac at the moment, just looking at those stats. All right. This is against Forest at the weekend. So he's in and around these boxes here. Strong connections, fine. They were attacking to the right this game because that's who Villa are. Not really involved in any of this. This is what I'm telling you. He's not involved a lot. That is a pass or a touch every 5 minutes. Yeah, he's just not involved in the attacking side of things. Does he do anything in terms of chains? This is very low. So he's in the 1 to 5 category. Doesn't really register anything progressive wise. So just a couple of passes in those areas. So he's not going to give you anything attacking wise. Okay, you have to get that. He's not a Fabinho. But Fabinho was a phenomenal 6. He also gave you something attacking wise. This guy's not that. He might be showing a bad season, and I'm happy to caveat that with him. But pass success 56 in this game. Team EPB only 1.1. As I said, not going to contribute much to the threat creation. And he's only took 2.5% of their team possession on the day for a 6. That's really low. Like, you'd expect your 6 to be on the ball doing the rest of it. Not going to bother looking at the threat because we've already established that's not his game. In terms of the areas he took up defensively, you can see the boxes he's involved in. So 6, 8, and 1. That's a high proportion of defensive actions, and there on his own 9 in his little box. So there are some strong areas for him. He's even then 18 over the 2 centimetre area. So off the ball, certainly there are some things to like for him, as we've said, right? But it's just, I think there's an element here where you're going to sacrifice from the stats here, right? And I'll happily say there are stats the club have, and I always say, that could show something different, right? But in what we've got here, the attacking on the ball metrics are not what we would expect a Liverpool midfielder or 6s gone by to do for us.
It's interesting, and we'll probably keep this short with Kamara because a couple of years left to go, and there is a suspicion amongst many sort of journalists or other things at the moment that the Liverpool talk with Kamara, there's always been historical talk, but is it being used to engineer a better contract at Villa with 2 years left to go? And there's a question mark naturally around him wanting to do a deal and getting top value from Villa, etc., all those things. Is it fair to say, Bart, that based on what we've looked at, people who could be a DM or 6, because people debate what it is and we play the double pivot, all those types of things, is in your reckoning, and it's interesting what you said, because the defensive stats are good, like 91st for clearances, 81st for tackles. But in terms of all-round game, are you putting this player, almost Kamara, in almost a I know he's got 2 years left to go, so price comes into it, but a tier below a Wharton or Belaber from what we've profiled so far.
Yeah, 100%, because Belaber for me is, I think he's younger. People shoot me down, but certainly he's younger. He's defensively a little bit more skilled. I don't really know. But yeah, defensively, I would suggest he's as good or on par in certain areas, but he also gives you a lot more going the other way. Wharton is not as good, I don't think, defensively, but going forward, he gives you a lot more.
Brilliant.
Wharton will add to it. So yeah, so I think he's a tier below those two for the obvious reasons, really.
Which is fair, yeah. Tier below Belaber, which you look at Belaber, he's the 91st for interceptions and he's 81st for blocks. So yeah, as you said, the defensive numbers are higher. Belaber's also higher in the aerial stats. Wharton, like you say, isn't as good defensively, but the progressive stats, as we said, for Wharton are not even comparable compared to Kamara. So with that in mind, people, 2 years left to go. If he doesn't do a deal with Villa, if he is interested coming to Liverpool, as we said, probably unlikely to be a direct starter. People will jump on that around Gravenberch, etc. But a defensive midfielder for Liverpool still needs to have something on the ball that way. So, yeah, it will be interesting to see if that's pursued or it is agent talk. We'll wait with bated breath on that one. And the final one, Bart, this is one that it has almost a feeling of maybe inevitability, like when last season or the season before Mac was previewed, wasn't it? And it was linked to all like the build-up and it happened and happened. Yeah. It seemed inevitable. Kerkez, Milos Kerkez, this story does just not go away. And as many journalists have now reported, 45 million suggested fee or what Bournemouth are looking for. It feels like we're almost in that negotiation time a little bit as well. I mean, it's not our money. I'll start you there, as you always say, before you give the line. It's not our money. But in terms of fullbacks, our record previously was Glenn Johnson for 17.5 million. We've always been quite frugal or look with value. And yes, you do look out when Trent comes through the academy. I get all that before anyone jumps on that element. But we've talked about Kerkez. We've talked about the raw attributes and certain things we pinpoint and we like. We also called out certain things that you're thinking, okay, there is a question mark really alongside that. We've also looked at profiles like a different one in Hato at Ajax. We looked at a different one in Carreras at Benfica. And maybe, just maybe, we thought, I'm not saying it's apples and oranges comparing them directly, but maybe there was things to like a bit more. It ain't our money, but it feels inevitable. Milos Kerkez, 45 million or somewhere up to that amount to Liverpool. What are you feeling about it when we're running these metrics now? Because I know there's a side coming.
Putting the money to one side, right? He's a young player. He's got physical attributes that suit the Premier League, right? He's playing in a semi-possession based side. I wouldn't say Bournemouth are in the same league as us, but they're certainly not down the bottom. West Ham, sorry, Hammers fans, but those kind of teams that low block and do the rest of the league. Bournemouth are a bit more tactically flexible, right? So some they can play low block, they can also play high the rest of it. So I think it's important to note I think he's had a pretty good manager with him this season to guide him through and do the rest of it.
True.
So physically, I don't have any worry about him. That famous stars words, but he hasn't got to get it. He's not been injured. He's bomb proof and he's been doing up and down. He's very, very quick. He's physically alert. So that side of things, an improvement. If you look at, so remember these stats update, right? So this is a year rolling, right? So yeah. So when we first looked at these, his defensive stats were not as good as this, right? So he still doesn't win enough aerials, right?
True.
That 30th percentile for a fullback is low. But clearances and interceptions have got better. Blocks, not, that's still 50% targets, give or take. And tackles, that could be because he's not asked to do that, or he's done the work by intercepting it before he gets to a tackle. So, okay. Between the boxes, he is a carrier. Yeah, 86% percentile, which is you need 3 progressive carries a game. So that is touches in the penalty box, 73rd, progressive passes received, so he receives it high.
Which have nudged up, as you said. It's important to remember
They've all nudged up, right?
Yeah.
But his pass completion probably come down. 75% is a little bit low. But what's he doing in that box? These are all green. Yeah, if we're being kind, shot creating action, 70th percentile for a fullback. He's good. And shows starting to go forward. Assist 0.15, which is 70, that's 80th percentile. That's good. So there are some things. There's a lot more things to like about this profile than there was. Having said that, if we compare it to what we currently have, all right, bearing in mind, Robertson has improved, right? Because at the beginning of the season, he was pretty much, he was the weakest link by an absolute mile, right? Now I don't think he's the weakest link, but he's still not, he wouldn't go out and buy Robertson now, right? So there's some differences. Robertson still outperforms him on nearly all the attacking metrics, all right? Bar actually one of the important ones, which is assists. So that's something to shout. Defensively, he does outperform Robertson on nearly all of them, bar what's that one in there? Aerials. Yeah. So apart from aerials, he outperforms Robertson. All right. Touches doesn't have as much as Robertson, but then Robertson is deeper now, right? Robertson would not have this bit of receiving progressive passes. He wouldn't have that because Robertson generally stays deep because he's too scared to get beat behind, right? Too scared. He's been told to adapt tactically. And carry the outperformance Robertson. So that is one of the attributes we asked Robbo to do, which is carry the ball. Kerkez is now better than him at that, which he wasn't before, which is shown measures. So, what I'm trying to say is Kerkez is having a great season. He's not giving us the output that Robbo is, but defensively, he is now on par, if not better. So that's a good tick.
Yeah.
Compared with their other guy, though, because people talk about the actual Costas going, Kerkez coming in, is what seems to be the thing in the media, whether you agree with that or not.
Yeah.
Costas, again, outperforms him attacking-wise. Doesn't outperform progressive carries, but then we know that is in Costas' game. Costas is more of a pass than he is a carrier, which you can see here in some of the dribbles. But then defensively, Costas does better than him on 2 out of the 5 metrics. So, it's a bit, but you could see an upgrade there because the other thing to note from Kerkez is you can see him developing and giving you what Robertson gives you attacking wise to still be better defensively. Costas is different to Robbo anyway in a profile, so maybe you don't want that. Maybe you want a bit more plug and play. One's out, you bring one in. So it's not my money. But I think there's no smoke with that far. There's a hell of a lot of smoke coming out of this one. I could see us doing this. I still would prefer somebody else, but that's me. And I think if you want to get another left back in, who's got Premier League proven, all those kind of boxes, he's had a good season. He's probably not a bad buy. I still quite like the lad at Wolves, who's more experienced, cheaper. But that noise seems to have gone quiet on that one. So Kerkez, I can see why they're doing it. I would still have some reservations about his aerial ability, and they must be convinced that his output can upscale with more quality position that we're going to give him versus what he gets a form of. So sometimes you've got to back that, guys.
It's interesting because I think it's fair to say in summary, a lot of his metrics have nudged up. So the trend is going the right way, whereas the trend with the other two fullbacks, as we know, is diving off a cliff a little bit, with one especially. So the trend's the right way. And even the, I mean, we know he's quick. We don't have his exact speed. We know he's rapid. We've all seen it. There's no two ways about it. And when you look at the metrics that you can get from the Premier League, I mean, he's only second to Anthony Robinson at Fulham in open play crosses. And he's also only second to Robinson in sprints up and down. So like you say, he seems to be bomb-proof. He's quick. He's young. The assists has ticked up. That's important to say. Is it fair to say that, in summary, it isn't our money, of course, so there's that. And maybe in market terms, it seems the higher end a little bit. And, you know, we probably look at value of other players, even though they're different types like Carreras and Hato. But in summary, to be fair to Kerkez, the metrics are trending up. In certain key physical ones in the Premier League, he's hitting the high numbers, you know, really up there with left backs. Also, things like carry stand out. And his defensive element is getting better. Then maybe the question is, can he upscale the output? Is that fair?
Yeah, 100%. And also, I think it's important, you actually mentioned it there, is there's a lot to be said for, like, £45 million will get you Hato, will get you Carreras, and will get you Kerkez. Right, the big advantage Kerkez has is he's already played in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Right, that's a big. People overplay the Premier League tax. They overplay it, but it is important. It's different leagues. Eredivisie and Portugal are very different leagues defensively to come in and play in the Premier League. So, if you're going to take a gamble on a younger or a up and coming fullback defender, I can see the justification if all things are equal in terms of price. Why you might go for a lad who's had a season in the Premier League and where things are upticking the right way. So I could see why more now so than I did that Kerkez was improving. And also, to be fair to us, we did say when we last profiled him, we would relook if he started to improve and he could become a better deal.
Yeah.
At the time when we first looked at him, they weren't where they are now. They are where they are now in terms of metrics, and we can see that. So I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah. So in terms of the money, well, it ain't ours. But in terms of the stats, they are trending up and the metrics are looking good for a player that is, you know, has no injury record practically, is up there with the most sprints up and down that line, has pace. And also, if we think it looks like we are going to renew, which is great, Virgil van Dijk, to have a pacey fullback alongside him doesn't seem the worst thing in the world, does it? If Van Dijk can operate aerially as he does. So that's something to consider as well. But there we go, ladies and gents. In terms of right fullback, if we're in bargain territory, Rațiu maybe, but we probably spent all the budget. In terms of Boubacar Kamara, Aston Villa, there's a lot of defensive metrics to like. You cannot dispute that at all. Does he give you enough on the ball for what Liverpool will be wanting? That's a question mark. Is he at the same level of the likes of Baleba and Wharton? Yes, they are different profiles. The levels don't really seem to match up, so it could come down to price, but we may be just being used for a wage renewal. We'll have to see. Kerkez at 45 million. As we said, if you'd asked us about 6 months ago when we first ran him, there's question marks. They've not all disappeared, but some of them are starting to be answered. Everything is upticking in the right way. Scalable output will still be the question. But 45 million, it ain't our money. And it certainly isn't. Well, it's about the same that a doctor in Mauritius earns, but that's a different discussion for a different day, isn't it? So all it leaves me to say as ever is, but for the analysis, the breakdown, and for looking at all three elements, it is much appreciated, pal.
No worries, anytime.
And ladies and gents, that was another Transfer Market Metrics for Anfield Index.